Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Country Boy Cryptids. I'm your host, Chris, and we have a very special guest tonight, Mr. Jeremiah Fountain from On the Trail and the Skookum Sessions. Welcome,
Yes,
welcome to the
thank
show,
you.
Jeremiah.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you having me on. It's a real honor. I've been looking forward to this all week.
I know, I've been looking
So I
forward.
really appreciate
Like we
it.
talked earlier, last time I wanted to have it on, I got sick, and I was like, man, I got to get Jeremiah back on.
Yeah.
Get him on here.
No, I appreciate it. It's a real honor, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna hand it over to you. You tell people your backstory, and I guess we'll jump into some encounters.
Sure. Yeah.
You've had.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, I've been in this thing with the Sasquatch and the cryptids. Probably, God, I've always had an interest all my life. So let me start out. Let me back up a little bit. I'm Jeremiah Fountain from the Adirondacks. If for those who don't know me, way up here in upstate New York, I could literally walk across the Canadian border. My wife and I been married, almost 10 years now. My wife Stacy, who's also a researcher. We do all our research as kind of a husband and wife team, and she's more into the paranormal, and I take the cryptid stuff, and it kind of balances itself out,
Right.
But yeah, like I said, I've been involved almost 20 years now, as far as the investigation part, but always had an interest ever since I was a little boy. I've always been into the aliens and the Sasquatch. I remember my mother buying me a book when I was a kid, Unexplained Mysteries of the 21st Century. And I remember flipping through the pages, and I got to that picture of Patty. And at that, I said to my little self, what is that? And I showed my mother the book, and she told me, well, that's what they call Bigfoot. And right then and there, man, I was hook, line, and sinker,
Right.
But this piece my wife and I, we live on a 250-acre piece of land that my dad turned over to me years back. And we have a lot of activity that goes on. We have a family of Sasquatch, anywhere. It depends on what year it is, but anywhere from 6 to 8 in numbers. Changes over the years with the rebirths, and and they're usually here from November, and they come back, and they leave in November. They come back in April, and they're here till the summer, and then they leave again. But during the winter is when the other guys come in, the dogmen that I was never a believer in until I saw one.
Right.
I could never buy the theory, no matter how many times I heard people talk about these things they were seeing, I could never wrap my head around it. Just like a lot of different things in this field, how it is. I mean,
yeah.
I started out as a firm believer these things were now I'm talking Sasquatch, a species of unknown primate, and I was hooked on that theory for years,
Mm-hmm.
But as the years went by, and I had more experiences and encounters, weird things would happen along with the encounters, like lights in the sky beforehand, or during, or after, or both, or all three. Just weird stuff, paranormal stuff going on around the cabin, and I've kind of jumped ship on the ape theory. I think I do believe they are a flesh and blood creature, but I do believe they could have some abilities.
Mm-hmm.
I just believe there's more to it than being a primate. I believe there got to be way more to it than that, in my opinion. Which is just, I'm just a researcher. It's just speculation, theory. But I think there's a lot more to it.
Well, yeah, like when we was kids, our first thing was Patty. She looked like a big ape, and now
big ape, exactly.
Researchers is coming out, and we're learning.
Yeah, and I was scared to come out. Yeah, exactly. And like a lot of other researchers, I was afraid to come out and admit that I was kind of starting to flip to the other side.
Right.
It was, but right now I'm to the point, right? I don't care.
Right.
People can call it, say tree hugger or whatever it is. You remember how it was back in the day, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
two split sides. You had the 8 camp, and then had the other side. But I think the best way to go about the approach for us as researchers to find answers is everyone work together. Follow the data where it brings you. Instead of being stuck so far on one side of the spectrum, being stuck
Exactly.
so far on that spectrum that you can't follow the data to where it takes you. And that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's and I think you'll probably agree with me on this one, Chris. I think it's as research, we don't do this for the money. You know that you know as well as I do. If anyone gets involved in this field for the money, they're in the wrong field.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just think it's our duty as researchers, to bring people answers when people come to us for help, or when they're having an issue, or even sometimes we act as therapists, for people that have had such traumatic encounters. They get PTSD almost.
Right.
I know after my first encounter, which I can get into in a second if you want me to. My second encounter was the traumatic one that ruined my hunting and everything for about 3 years. Took me about 3 years to get back in the woods after that. It was just such a.
I want to put people to know something. You're a pretty big dude. I mean, you was in an MMA, right? You was a
ex-fighter, ex-MMA fighter.
Well, this is a guy that's been in the ring. Probably don't have very much fear at all, if any. But it's just
no. But that scared me, and they can be disturbing experiences, and I think more people are finding that out every day with not only Sasquatch and Dogman, but these other things that people are seeing now, and things can get disturbing. Things can get really disturbing. So, even as researchers, we act as counselors sometimes as well. As weird as that might sound to people, but it's the truth. So I just think it's our duty as researchers to follow the data to where it's supposed to be, and bring people whatever answers we can. I think it's a passion, my passion. I know it's yours. A lot of other guys, that's one of the reasons I do my shows, and probably one of yours too. It's just a passion, and we like bringing people information. I think it's a part of our duty as a researcher.
Yeah. I can't wait to
if
get
that
out
makes sense.
I want to try to go up to the farm and see what I can find up there, because all these years I've always believed in Bigfoot, but I never really got into it. But the last year I've been like, man, I'm watching shows like your show.
Yeah.
And everybody else that's out there. I mean, the word needs to be put out.
Exactly. Whatever needs to be put out there, and you just throw it out there, and I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of in this field, is throwing their, I've always said, for every encounter someone reports, there's probably, what would you say, 20, 30 that don't get reported?
Yeah, I would probably. Honestly, yeah.
Probably more than that.
I don't know how it is up where you live, but down here, people's like, they don't want to talk about it. They don't come out.
Not.
And then a lot of the older people,
here.
like the older generation, back to our grandma and grandfather, they're getting older.
Yeah.
They're not. They're passing away on us. We're losing a lot of history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people up here are very weary about talking about it too. You got to approach them really, really delicately, and sometimes take anonymous reports, that's fine with me. I don't mind doing that at all. If that'll help someone with their, getting that out there, and releasing it from inside of them, hey, I don't mind.
Right.
So. But yeah, I had my first face-to-face about, it was back in 2000. It was muzzleloader season of 2000. And I went to sit in my tree, and I granted it in 2000. I was not an active researcher yet. I was into the field really heavy, but I just wasn't out there boots on the ground investigating yet. I was strictly we hadn't built our cabin on the property yet at this point, so there was nothing there. I was just my tree stands, my hunting spot. That was strictly my hunting area, and until that point, and there had been times where I had heard a lot of weird vocalizations down there, and I played it off as a regular animal of the forest, which as well as I do. These things out there like fishers, bobcat, coyotes, they can make some weird noises.
You're no joke there.
Just very disturbing noises, But now that now that I'm where I'm at now, I look back on it and I know dang well what it was, that I was hearing for all those years, But yeah, it was muzzleloader season. It was late October, and I decided there had been a big buck I'd been seeing around that I wanted to try to harvest, So I took a walk. I drove down from my house. I was living about a half mile away at the time, and I drove down to the property and parked my truck, walked back, got in my tree stand, and sat there for a while. And the woods were dead quiet. Didn't hear a thing, which was kind of weird to me. It was extremely weird. Why am I not hearing the regular sounds of the forest like I normally am?
Yeah, like the
exactly. You didn't even hear a bird. So I'm thinking to myself, what's this all about? And something told me, maybe it's time you should maybe climb out of the stand and get out, because I was starting to lose light, and I don't know how it is down there, but in New York, when you're hunting, you got to be out of the woods with a loaded weapon, before the sun sets.
Yeah, about 5 o'clock around here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I got out of the stand, and I was walking down the logging road, and I was about a quarter mile away from my truck, and my old man has an old skidder from the 40s, real old one, real nice piece of machinery. He doesn't run anymore, but it's still parked down there. It's a permanent fixture on the property.
Right. I understand you.
It's not going anywhere. So I get to approaching it. I get maybe 20, 30 feet away, and I see a head. It's still light enough where I can see a head and a overwhelming glowing set of amber eyes. And I'm I'm an outdoorsman, hunter, and I can identify just about anything, like yourself, guys like us, ladies like us. And for the life of me, I'm staring at this thing that's looking at me, and I just can't put my finger on it. What is it? What's going on? And that's when it popped back behind that skidder. And I was kind of a little bit nervous, trepidatious. Like I said, I had no clue what I had been looking at. And I get just even with the front end of the nose of that skidder, and I'm about 40 feet away at this point, okay, from me to the tip of that skidder, and I'm looking directly at it. Mm-hmm. And right at that point, a hand comes wrapped around the front end of the skidder, and that head pops itself back out. And that's when I got the real, so it would have been its left hand wrapped around. And I could see the hand, I could see a good view of the arm, I could see the face, and it was like, I still couldn't put my head or wrap my head around what I was looking at. I just couldn't. And all of a sudden it popped back behind the skidder. So it wasn't 15 seconds, a few seconds. There were some logs, two big trees that were down laying horizontally to me, about 15 feet apart, one about 15 feet from the front end of the skidder. This thing takes a leap from behind the skidder, okay, hits that log, and it made another leap off of that first log, okay? But this will tell people that haven't seen one of these things a little bit about the athleticism they possess. Now, when this thing hit that log, it didn't crouch to jump again. It didn't really swing its arms to jump again. All it did was propel itself off the front half of its foot, almost just about its toes, almost, and it propelled itself, bang, hit with
Whoa,
those feet, and just launched itself to that second log, which is about, like I said, about 15 feet away. And then
whoa,
when it hit that log, it did the same thing with its feet. It, like I said, didn't lower itself, didn't wave its arms. It just launched itself off its feet, and I at this point I'm mind blown. And as soon as I hit the ground from that second lead, there was a big white pine. Okay, and that was probably another 12 to 15 feet away. It launched itself off that second tree that was down, and went directly behind that standing white pine. And it popped out few seconds later, and now it's standing there directly facing me, looking right at me, and it's doing the classic wob back and forth. And it was a small one. It was probably, I've always told people 4'11", 5 foot maybe, just a small one. But as far as weight goes, this thing was put together, I would have to say anywhere between 185 to 200 pounds. And for
whoa.
people that don't think, yeah, exactly. People that don't think that that's big for 4'11" or 5 feet, that's big.
That's
That's
big.
big. That's put together. I mean, this thing could have handled me if it wanted to, you know. So it's standing there looking at me, and what I did next, I don't really recommend anyone doing. Don't ever do it. But I had first of all, I want to say I had no intentions of shooting this thing, none whatsoever. I'm not pro kill.
Right. That's what it may. Yeah.
I raised I wanted to get a better look. So I had my headlamp was on at this point, and I had it fully illuminated, and it looked like my first reaction in my mind was it looks like someone's orangutan loose, because that's what it looked like to me. It had that auburnish, reddish, brownish color, and the facial features were very apish on this one, extremely apish. Had a real the coat, which I want to say is hair. It's not fur, but it is hair. Was 6 inches long. And you know how you hear down your way, you must hear it a lot more than I do up here, but you hear about the matted hair, the matted up, knotty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see any of that on this one. It had a real nice coat, which makes me wonder, up here so far north where I am, do they bring in a new coat for the wintertime? And I've thought about that for years, which I guess is a possibility. Again, speculation.
Do you guys have a lot of greenbriers up here? You know what I'm talking about.
A lot of what, Chris?
Greenbrier bushes. The bush that got stickers all over them?
Yeah, oh yeah, we got them.
Wonder if that would have something to do with why they get tangled down the...
That's a good possibility. Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. Yeah.
Because I've been some places that going hunting, for deer that you can't get through.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is so many greenbriers, you can't. I mean, you have to cut your way through
it. you can't, and it's weird. We have such a rough time getting through it, but we've got moose up here too, and they majestically make their way through that stuff, and I do not know how they do it. You get a big bull with a 58-inch rack, 58 inches across, and they make it through that stuff. I don't know how they do it, but I don't want to get off topic talking about moose, but I tend to go off on my tangents. But anyway, it's standing there and it's looking at me. I'm looking at it, and I'm nervous. The goosebumps are up, the hairs are standing up on my back, and like I said, I did raise my muzzleloader. I wanted to get a better look. Yeah. And as soon as I raised the muzzleloader, went just like this. It almost like it was trying to cover itself up. It popped back behind that tree, and it was gone. It's like it disappeared. I don't know if it had... They're so good. There's so many theories I've had over the years on this, on how this thing got away with me, not hearing it, not seeing it. It makes me wonder if it got down in that army crawl position they do. You know, that's a possibility. Or did it catch an angle with that tree and run, you know, so stealthily that I couldn't see it behind that tree the whole time? Because I was looking, but I could not see it. So yeah, that was my first experience. You know, my first face to face with Bigfoot, Sasquatch. You know, and it was that it freaked me out a little bit, but it didn't bother me as much as the second encounter. That was kind of that was very extremely disturbing. This was in 2007. You know, and that's when, after this encounter, is when I really started. I started considering myself a researcher. I needed answers. I wanted to bring other people answers. Again, I wanted to. It was rifle season at this point. You know, it was in November. I had my 300 Win mag on me, and I didn't plan on sitting too long. My main purpose for going down was to fix up my tree stand for the season coming up. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went down, you know, but I don't go in the woods without a weapon, and that's not because I'm trying to kill everything. It's just something I was taught as a child. You know, don't go in the woods without a weapon. And I've always followed that rule.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't know what you're going to run into. You've got bear, you know, we have bear and, you know, wolves up here, and we do have big cats. People that think we don't have big cats up here are crazy, and I know you guys have them down there too.
Yeah.
You know, anyway, yeah, fixed up the tree stand, fixed the stairs, and I said, you know what? Why not try to sit for a little bit, you know, and see what happens. So I climbed up into the tree stand, and I sat there, and it had been about a half an hour, and it was going to be getting dark soon. And I heard an ungodly, god-awful, it sounded somewhere between a yell or like a yell and a holler. Very, very, very weird, if that makes sense. Just somewhere in between a howl and a yell. And just very weird. And that's the first time I had heard one like that. And, you know, I'm like, okay, yeah, now it's probably time to get out of here. Whatever that was, it's probably does not want me in its presence. So let's get out of here now. So, like I told you earlier, we've got a nice, very beautiful natural artesian spring down there, and to get to my tree stand, you've got to take the logging road to the spring, walk around the spring, and there's my stand. So, as I'm walking around the pond, I'll call it the pond, to get to the logging road to make it back to my truck, because at this point we still weren't living down here yet. Mm-hmm. I see something about 5 feet offshore in the pond, just there, and it looked like a tree to me. So I'm like, you know, there wasn't a tree there before. What, did someone come down here with a machine and jam a tree in the pond as I'm sitting in my tree stand? You know, no way, you know. Until this tree turned its hips and looked directly at me. She looked directly at me. It was a female.
It was a female.
It was a female. You could see very visible breasts. They didn't hang as low as Patty, but they were there. Mm-hmm. I can give you a very detailed description of this big girl. She was standing there in the water. The water came up to about, I'd say, 4 inches below where her knees were. Okay. Which, in my estimation, would have made her almost 8 feet, which is a good sized female.
Yeah, that's big.
You know, that's a big, that's big, period. But for you know, a female, that's even more impressive. Right. The most impressive part, and I told people this for years, the most impressive part on her was her hip area and the buttocks. The quadriceps, the leg muscles, and the width of the buttocks and the hip area was just unbelievable. The shoulders, the width and the shoulders had to be 4.5 feet, you know, and front to back to front, I'd say 2.5 feet in thickness.
Jeez.
So I would have to estimate just a massive creature. I'd have to estimate I've often said that people underestimate the weight of these things a lot.
Yeah.
So I think, a big male, you take a big 10-foot male, which my wife saw the alpha male that we have in our group down here. He measured out at about 10'4" because she showed me the limb he walked under when she saw him. Yeah. And we measured it out, and she said he cleared the limb by about 2-3 inches, and the bottom of the limb measured out at 10'6", which would have made him about 10'3", 10'4". So in my estimation, something that size, you got to be talking well over 1,000 pounds. So this girl probably was pushing well over 700 pounds. She just, in my opinion, just massive. And she had that brownish, auburn color too, a little bit more brown than the little guy. But the way she stared at me, okay, was what really got me disturbed. She looked directly in my eyes, and it was almost like she was speaking to me. You ever seen the movie Tombstone?
Yeah.
Okay, well, she took her eyes and she flickered her eyes, and she saw the barrel of my rifle over my shoulder. And it was almost like she was saying what Wyatt Earp said to that guy in the bar: "Are you going to skin that smoke wagon or stand there?"
Right.
So I'm thinking to myself, no, I'm not going to skin that smoke wagon. I just want to go our separate ways.
Right.
And she gave me a look, Chris. It was almost like, if you go your way, I'm going to go my way, and we won't have any issues. And I didn't pull it. Even if I'll tell you this much. We were about 30, like I said, 30 feet away. I was 30 feet away from her at this point. Even if I had wanted to pull that off my shoulder, pull the rifle up and take a crack at her, she would have gotten to me first.
Wow.
With the athleticism they possess, there's no doubt in my mind that she would have gotten to me first. And something really weird happened, and I've only heard one other case with this. How do I describe this? There was something. You ever see when a shark bites down on a seal or a prey? They had that shield that comes up over their eyes.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, well, there was something on the bottom, and it wasn't an eyelid. There was something on the bottom that kept flickering at me, like she was bringing it up and down, which makes me wonder: is that something they have to help them see at night, or is that something that protects their eyes from the elements? I don't know. I have no answer. But I've only heard of one other case with someone having an encounter, and it wasn't with a Sasquatch. It was with a dogman. Someone I know saw a dogman do this to them, do the eye flicker. I'll call it a membrane, whatever. I'm not a scientist, so I can't think of a good term for it, but that's all I can describe it as. Is some type of membrane that kept flickering at me. After a few more seconds of her standing there staring at me, she kind of looked at me like, we're good, and she turned, took one leap out of the water onto the shore, and then took 3 leaps and went 63 feet. And I know that because the next day, I brought 4 buddies back with me. I wasn't walking back there alone. We all went back with loaded weapons because it scared me. I'm not going to, like I told you, that ruined my hunting for about 3 years.
Yeah.
I encountered it. We went down and we could see the scuff marks where she had leapt. It took these leaps, and they were each 21 feet. So she went onto the shore, took one 21-foot leap, took another 21-foot leap, and another one, and that's when I lost trace of her.
Wow, 21 foot. That's a lot.
It's a long ways. I don't think a lot of people can't comprehend what that would take to make a move like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's very impressive, if anything. Very impressive, and it was just unbelievable, you know. And I'll get back into her face, her mouth. Now, this is an exaggeration when I say this, but it's the only way I can picture it in my mind. The mouth was so wide on her, okay? It almost looked like ear to ear,
Wow.
you know? Almost looked, it wasn't. Like I said, it's an exaggeration, but it was just so wide, it looked like ear to ear. The head wasn't cone shaped. It wasn't round. It was somewhere in between. I did not see any ears. She didn't have any hair in her face. The hair around the head was not long. It was short. But the rest of the body, the hair on the rest of the body was probably about 6 inches all around. Even around the hand where the fingers were, you could see it was long. The hair was long coming off the fingers. And her hands were huge. Probably, you know, I'd say I got a pretty good sized hand, you know, and they're probably twice the size of mine.
Jeez,
you know, at least. And the color, you know, from what I could make out with the lighting I had, the color of her skin was a little bit lighter than the hair on her body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you know, it's when I say, and then I talk about the breasts, how they weren't sagged down as far as Patty's. You know, maybe she was a younger female and hadn't bred yet, or maybe I don't know.
Right,
you know, who knows? There's just, but that's something I've thought about over the years. You know, Patty's hung so low. Was she, you know, an older girl? You know, was this one younger? You know, so you know, yeah, that was the you know the encounter in 2007, and that's when I officially said, okay, you know, after sitting there pondering it for a couple of years, you know, I want to get back into this and see what can happen. And that's when I got heavy into the investigation and you know, tried doing what I do now, is helping people out and coming up with answers for people, and started working other spots around the area. Now I'll go back. Now, when I had that encounter, that's when I think I won their trust. Because this group on our property, they have never given us any problems. The only time I ever had anywhere near an issue was the night I was down there. I went down about 1 a.m. And I think I interrupted a hunt because I could hear them vocalizing in the distance, and it kept getting closer and closer. And I was, to put it nicely, I was escorted out on each side.
Wow.
You could hear them as I would move, they would move, and as I would move faster, they would start moving faster, and I would slow down on purpose to see, and they would slow down, you know, but you could hear them walking next to me, like they did not want me there, you know. And that's the only issue I've ever had with this group. Other than that, we haven't had any problems. I do work some other spots up here where I know it's a different type of Sasquatch. It's more, one of the spots, it's on the Mohawk Reservation. It's along the St. Lawrence River. And these things look more Neanderthal. And they're not quite as big. Not quite as big. They, you know, I get reports about them being, you know, at the largest 8 feet, you know, which this other type, you know, like I said, my wife saw one that was well over 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
But this was still like the Patty looking type, you know. But this other type that, you know, we deal with up here seems to be a little bit more edgy. A couple of the spots I work, you can almost cut that tension in the air with a knife.
Wow.
You know, they're just, as soon as you get there, they, you know, I've had boulders thrown at me, you know, logs, trees pushed down, you know, to block the logging roads, yeah, all sorts of stuff. You know, we did live down south for a couple of years. We lived in your neck of the woods. We lived in North Carolina, and we found a really good area down there as well. And that was a totally different. We did have we had a face-to-face down there as well. And this thing, there's an old train trestle, and we were down there one night. We were underneath the bridge, and I have a 19-year-old daughter, and she likes to come out in the woods with Dad every now and then, you know. And I don't mind. She's older, you know. I don't bring my 13-year-old out with me, you know. I just don't.
Yeah.
but I do bring my daughter out. She likes to come out, and she had a friend with her, and I said, honey, you gotta pay attention, and just watch the area. As I'm messaging with someone that I did research with, saying, we're hearing vocalizations, and we could hear, all of a sudden we could hear footsteps in the water, and it was about we're in a bayou, probably 2.5 feet of water moccasin, alligator infested water, so I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's not those aren't people walking through that water, so we could see eyes off in the distance, and you could see, blue eye shine, red eye shine, which I think is pretty interesting, how the colors, you hear about the different colors, of the eyes. And like I said, I had put my head down for a second to text one of my team members, and all of a sudden my daughter and her friend, they scream. And I look up, and just as I'm looking up, on the other side of the water, there he is, and he's walking, and I lit him right up. I had a nice spotlight on me, and I lit him right up, and he turned his head and looked and turned it back and just kept walking up the hill. And the vegetation was about 5 feet, and he stood probably 2.5 feet over the vegetation. So he was about a 7.5 footer, but he was stocky. Almost had you could see where I say beer belly, but you could tell it was solid muscle.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. I know that kind of contradicts itself, but you could tell it was solid muscle, and he was just put together. Shorter than I had seen with the girl in 2007, but he's still a beast. Still a good size. And it was gray. He was gray colored, had a grayish color, not a white, silver, or anything, but like a dark gray. And he didn't pay us any, like I said, didn't pay us any mind. I say he because I got the impression that it was a male. It looked very, gave me that male look, and I could almost feel the hormones he and I were exchanging back and forth. I know that might sound kind of weird to some people out there, but that's just how it felt to me. It felt very male.
Yeah.
So we lost sight of him. He walked away and didn't give us any problems. And the rest of the night, it was quiet. The other ones, you could hear them turning around, walk back into the swamp. And I don't know if they went back in and cut over somewhere else to follow him. I don't know where they went, but all I know is they disappeared as well. But that was a pretty cool encounter, because I never dreamed I'd see a gray one,
Right.
Which I think is pretty cool.
So apparently there's different colors, I guess,
Absolutely.
Maybe it's a camouflage thing they got, or different parts of the country. They got different, who knows?
Yep. Yeah. As far as subspecies go, I think there's a lot more I think we're dealing with more of these things and more types of these things than people think. Or we could be dealing with different entities altogether. Maybe they are not related, and maybe they are not all Bigfoot. Maybe they all resemble each other, but maybe they aren't of the same subspecies. Yeah. So those were the three of my real up close encounters, and we did see one. We have a black one on the land here. I'll send you a picture after, because I caught a picture of him last year, about 100 feet away from my bedroom window, staring directly at the cabin. I'll send you the picture after, and you can take a peek at it. But you could see him perfectly, just standing there. And we did see him. My nephew and I were back there messing around, riding 4-wheelers one day, and we saw him walk through the swamp. And when he saw us, he picked up some speed, and he was gone. But that was at a distance, probably 150 yards away. But I know if it's the same one I'm talking about that's in the picture? I don't know. But kind of looks like him. There's not a whole lot of detail there, because it was taken with the cell phone from, like I said, he was probably 100 feet away from the cabin, but you could tell what it is, man. And you can even I got a picture I blew up, and we screwed the resolution up, but it made made it so you could see the hands, and the hands matched up perfectly to what I've always seen before, where that thumb turned inward. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The angled thumb turned the other way with the rest of the fingers. You know,
Mm-hmm.
almost like their hands are made for, instead of wrapping, made for gripping, like this. You know.
Yeah.
It's where, you know, you see all our twists and stuff people post. You know, I think that's how they pull that off. You know, you
Uh-huh.
could probably pull it off easier just gripping rather than wrapping and doing it. I would think it's, again, speculation, but
Right.
just
Right.
just what I'm
An
thinking.
idea, though. I mean, that's all we got's
Yeah,
ideas and opinions, what we think.
exactly. Like we
Uh,
were saying earlier, you just got to follow the data.
yeah. I lost my train
What
of
were you
thought.
gonna say, Chris? I cut
I
you
know.
off. I'm sorry.
I lost my train of thought. I had a question in my head, and now it's gone. um, the uh, the female one that you seen, now
Yes.
she wasn't like really aggressive with you, right? Like she just let and
Who?
her look. She
She
was
let me
boss.
know who was boss.
Yeah, yeah.
She let me know who was boss. Yeah. Yeah. She didn't get aggressive. No. Thank God. Thank
Right.
God, because I would have came out in the losing end of that MMA fight.
Well, she'd probably been there before you even got a chance to get your, gun off your
Exactly.
shoulder. You said there, so
I've always that's what I've always told people. Even if I had wanted to rip that off my shoulder and take a crack at her, there's no way I could have gotten it off. Especially with a rifle, with a
yeah,
long, with a 300 Win mag with a 28-inch fluid barrel. There's no way I
yeah.
would have ripped that off my shoulder quick enough. There's
No,
just no way.
no, that's for
Even
sure.
with a hand, even with a pistol, I couldn't have gotten it off my hip quick enough. There's just no way.
Yeah,
You know.
they're that fast.
Yeah.
Well, I
Oh
mean, 20,
God.
21 foot. I mean, 21 foot in between. That's holy crap.
63 feet.
That's a
Yep.
lot. That's
That's
a
a lot. It blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. I mean, that night when I watched her, take off, it was impressive.
mm-hmm.
Impressive but scary at the same time. Like, what am I dealing with here that these things can move like that? What are we dealing with? Something that can do that. This inhuman athleticism, and
The
can
power.
just take a look at the power. It's just incredible. I mean, to do some of the things we see them do, like push trees over, throw these 80-pound boulders. I remember I was in North Carolina one night, and I went out by myself. I don't recommend doing that to anyone getting involved in this field. Do as I say, not what I do. That's what I always say. Don't do it. But like an idiot, I went out by myself, and I'm sitting by the creek, which was probably 60 feet across. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm just waiting for the sun to go down, and checking my supplies, make sure I had all my stuff with me, and all of a sudden I got a bang, a splash right in front of my feet, and it was I could see the boulder it had hit, and it was, I'm not talking a rock, I'm talking a big basketball sized boulder.
Yeah.
Yes, this thing had launched from the other side of the creek, which I said was about 60 feet. Then I got one from the left, okay, which I had no idea where that came from, that hit the same spot that other boulder did that came from this way. Then I had one from the right come and hit that same spot. So they're very accurate when they throw these boulders. And needless to say, that night I got out of there real quick. Because that was that to me, when they pull aggressive behavior like that, that's them telling you, get out.
Yeah.
Get out and get your belongings, get out of here fast. Yeah.
I wonder how they bring down deer sometimes, and like you said, moose and stuff up there.
Yeah.
With the rocks like that, if they can throw that accurate, that's pretty accurate.
Well, I've got a good story for you if you want to hear it.
Yeah, go ahead.
About a guy I know. I actually interviewed him. It's on my YouTube channel. I can actually send you the episode. He was moose hunting in Alberta, and he watched a Sasquatch and a full-grown Canadian bull moose go at it for about 10 minutes. This moose, he said, when he was out, he had his 308 with him, ready to do his thing. He saw this moose charge out of the bush, and he thought it was charging him. And he said, my nerves were working so hard. I was trying to get my rifle up there to take a crack and try to stop it. He said, but as it got closer, I could see its eyes, and it was looking right past me. And the thing passed him, he said, and just then, the Sasquatch takes a leap out of the bushes. He said he has no idea how far. He said it had to. He doesn't know where it took that jump from the bushes, so he has no way of judging how far the leap was from, or how far the leap was. But he's guessing, at least 30 feet. And that's when the thing caught up to the moose and grabbed onto the moose, and they grappled. They were in a grappling match. And it had a hold of its antlers. And he said the moose actually gave him a run for his money for a few minutes, pushed him around a little bit, but the Sasquatch would push back. And he said finally it got the moose, tired the moose out, got it on the ground. And the way it took this moose out, I find very, very interesting, because it broke its neck and its back. This is how it finished it off, but it didn't grab onto the neck and twist. It got directly in front of it, held onto the antlers, and popped upward like that. And when it popped upward, he said he could see the spinal cord go move. Just broke its back. Yeah. Wow. Yep. So that was one of it's a very interesting episode to listen to. I'll definitely send it to you.
I have a question, because I've never seen a moose up close. How big are they?
Okay. They're massive.
2,000 pounds or?
Oh yeah, the biggest. I think the biggest moose ever shot was about 2,000 pounds. And one of them was shot up here back in the 1800s. A lot of people think the biggest moose ever shot was out in Alaska, but it was shot out this way, and it was almost 2,000 pounds. I think 1850, something like that.
So whiz, that's a huge animal.
It's huge. It's huge. So
think tall too, right? Are they pretty tall? I mean,
they tower right over you. Their shoulder, you can't even. The bottom part of their shoulder is way above your head. You're talking 7 feet at the shoulders.
Damn.
They're a massive animal. And
I had to be a big, tall to get that.
Did that oomph to
to
yank it up there? Yeah. He said it was about 9 feet.
Whoa!
It was about a 9 footer. Yeah.
Wow.
Pure black. He said. Yeah, pure black one. And he said as soon as the Sasquatch got done killing the moose, it didn't pay him any mind at all. It didn't even look at him. It went immediately to work on opening this moose up. And he said he slowly backed up, real slow. And as soon as he got a good distance away from him, he hit the trail. He said, I was gone. And I know this guy really well. He's a really, really good guy. He's someone, that's not going to make up a story. When you listen to this interview, you'll see what I mean. You couldn't make it up.
Right.
Couldn't make up a story like that,
Right.
But he got out of there after that. He said it looked to him that hey honey, it looked to him as it was removing. He thought it was removing organs first, which would make sense.
So actually, the Bigfoot might have kind of saved his life in a way. I mean, if it had kept running, towards him. Gave him a prolonged life anyway. Yeah,
he was able to live an extra few minutes, instead of taking a bullet, he got his back broken,
Yeah,
which would probably be he was probably just as quick,
Yeah, I mean, just that probably fed a whole clan of them, I would think. I'm sure.
I would think so.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I would think so. And he said this guy's an experienced moose hunter, and he said it was a mature bull, well over 1,500 pounds.
Wow.
You know, so just think of the power, Chris. You know, it takes to
Something like that's back.
in like Al just said, you know, moose are they have a bad attitude. They
I've
are
heard that.
very, very ill-tempered.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Especially the females when they have a calf. When you run into a female moose that has a calf with her, you're in trouble. You're in deep trouble
So it's like
because
running into
she's
a
gonna
grizzly
stomp you.
bear. Be like running into a grizzly bear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or a black bear with cubs. You know, my mom a black bear. You and I both know can be one of the most dangerous animals in the world. Excuse me.
Yeah, they got one on the farm. This is the first time that I ever heard one being up there this year. This year or last year, last hunting season. They got one on game camera. And he said he had it up in the tree like 6 foot. And he said that thing, was jumped up, you know
It's
how
big.
they did. Put
Oh
his
yeah.
face in the camera. I was like, geez.
Yep. Yep.
That's a big one.
They're yeah, oh yeah, that's big. That's big for sure. But moose, they definitely have a bad temperament. So, which makes that even more interesting with that story with the Sasquatch. You know, for that Sasquatch to take out such a bad-tempered, powerful another animal of the forest like that is just incredible. The power it must have taken to snap that thing's back like that, I can't imagine. Makes you wonder how many times stronger than us they got to be.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard them ripping trees out of the ground and then sticking them upside down, like into the dirt.
I worked a case like that down in southern New York, where these trees, and I'm not talking small trees, I'm talking, foot around some of them, were ripped out from the roots and all, turned upside down, jammed back in, and what they were doing is they were taking the roots and tying them in knots, which is just bizarre to me. But that's what was going on,
Wow, that's crazy.
Tying roots in knots, yeah. It was crazy. And this lady ended up moving out of her house because they just went back off, and we couldn't get them to. They were giving her a real hard time, scaring her and taking. We would wake up to these mounds. Okay, it wouldn't be there the night before, but when we got up, crawled out of the tent, they were there, and they were taking her grandson's toys that he would leave out on the yard and sticking them in the middle of these mounds.
That's wild. That's weird.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Do you guys gift up there, at your house? Do you guys put out toys and stuff for them?
I don't do it. No. They do leave us. My wife gets stuff. So they've left, they left a weasel on our, our stairs at one point. And,
wow.
yeah, I'm positive. Yeah. These were Sasquatch because the lady, she had been seeing them, and we had took some real nice, casts of some tracks. They were Sasquatch. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. The stuff these things can do. It's just incredible. Just absolutely incredible.
I mean, I don't know if we'll ever get a body or not. I'm sure the government's
right.
Yeah,
I agree.
Wonder how big they. I mean, the bone structure's got to be massive.
It's got to be like steel. Yeah. It's a big steel frame. Yeah.
And the skin's got to be thick. I mean,
it's got to be. And then take into consideration the muscle mass, how much muscle you would have to get through to be able to defend yourself. God forbid you did have to defend your life against one of these things. Makes you wonder, what's it going to take to put one of these things down to save yourself?
Exactly. I mean, yeah. Something big.
Something big.
45,
something
70,
big.
Maybe that might not even be big enough,
Exactly. We don't know, because we don't, like you said, we just don't know anything about their anatomy yet.
Right.
To know how much of that how much we'd have to drive through with that round to get it to go down.
Yeah, plus, I mean, their organs could be totally different from ours.
Totally different. Totally different.
We don't know. No one knows. That's the thing.
No, that's the thing. But I'm on agreement. I'm in agreement with you, Chris. I think that what it would take to prove, to the rest of the world that these things were real would have to be a body. I just don't think DNA is enough to do it anymore. I don't. I think it would have to be a body, unfortunately.
Right.
But what can you do? But like you said, I'm sure there's people and groups out there that do have them, have them on ice somewhere.
Right.
There's got to be.
Right.
Yeah, there's got to be for sure. But I think that's what it would take. Yeah. Yeah. But it makes makes me go back to what we were talking about earlier. How many types there are. How many, if these groups and agencies do have some of these things on ice. Examining them. How many different kinds of these things are there? Really are there?
Right. Right. And like you said, yours only stays so much time of the year. I mean, they're going for months of the year. Do you think they go somewhere warmer or just hide out in caves? Do you think they go somewhere warmer or just stay in caves or something all winter? Or?
I think they. My personal opinion is that I think they go and they may go somewhere warmer, but I think they might go underground. Because we do have caves up here, so I think they might go underground. They, like I said, they take off in November and they're back in April and, stay the summer and do their thing and, they don't bother us, they don't get me wrong. The juveniles will mess around. We have them come up to the cabin and they'll knock on the side, knock, knock, knock. They'll leave handprints on the windows, and the little ones will get on they'll climb the tree next to the house and jump up on the roof and bounce up and down and yeah.
Have you seen any little ones yet, Jeremiah? Any babies? Have you seen any baby ones yet or anything?
I've got just the closest I've seen to an actual baby is that first one I saw in 2000. But I do have a picture, okay, but it's very. I did an interview with someone else a couple of weeks ago, and he displayed it for everybody. And even though it was taken with the cell phone, you can still tell what it is. You can see a brow ridge. You can see the head. What was it? My aha moment. I don't know what he means by that, Chris.
I don't know.
Sorry, Al. I don't know what you quite mean by that. But in the picture, it kind of looks like she's got something over her shoulder. And I'll send you that one, too, so you can take a peek at it. But it kind of looks like she's holding something. And I'm thinking it could be a baby.
That could be, yeah. I mean, possibility.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
I'm sure they carry them, when they're too little,
Absolutely. Now, I do know people that have, I know a guy, a buddy of mine in Arkansas, that saw a mother that came about 6 feet away from a mother Sasquatch and her baby Sasquatch. And she stood up. And he said as she stood up, he raised his flashlight, kept raising it. And he looked down, and there was this little guy standing there that was about 2.5, 3 feet tall, standing next to her.
That'd be cool as hell.
Yeah, it would be cool to see, yeah. A little one like that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Al, what was your
my aha moment? I don't know what he means.
Well, I mean, one of you, the female that you seen the scariest, the one that really got to you,
Yeah. As far as getting into the field, my aha moment and realizing what I was dealing with, maybe that's what he means. That was after that second encounter. Yeah.
You've had quite a few encounters, haven't you? I mean,
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
oh, he said,
Yep.
what? Let's see here. I'll put it up there. What was your first epiphany with Bigfoot's? That.
What does he mean by that? I sorry, Al. I still don't know what you mean by that.
I would guess what was the first time you seen one. I would say that first.
But that was back in 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in 2000. I did realize what that little one was. I realized after it was that was a Sasquatch I saw. So
Yeah.
I hope hope I answered your question, Al. But yeah, it would have been back in 2000. Yeah, October of 2000. October.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's go back to the ones that look like Neanderthals. That are they
Yes.
more? They're the more aggressive ones, like where you're at.
Yes, they're the more aggressive ones. They see a lot. Like I said, we see a lot of them. And from what I've gathered from witnesses that I've taken reports on these things from, they don't go anywhere. They hang out on those in the marshes along the St. Lawrence River all year round, and they don't go anywhere. And they tend to get very, they tend to get feisty, and they can, I took a report of actually one swimming after guy was in his boat and the thing jumped in the water and started swimming. He was on the St. Lawrence and he was in his boat and he had shut his motor off, and because he could hear something splashing water, shut his motor off completely, and he turned, put a spotlight on this thing, and it was crouched down. It had its hands in the water. He doesn't know if it was trying to catch a fish or if it was maybe washing its hands, but it stood up for a second, and when this one was totally silver, he said, and it's very weird how he describes the face. He describes the face like a Neanderthal, but you know how when we get a sweat going and we get our body temperature up, our skin turns pink.
Yeah.
He said the face was almost a pinkish color.
Wow.
But this thing entered the water and started to swim.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, and from what I gather, when they swim, they don't swim with their arms at all. This is just what I've heard. This is what the reports I've taken. They swim with their back legs like a frog kick. They don't use their arms at all.
Wow. Well, they're probably so strong in the legs, it probably really moves them.
They don't need to use their arms.
Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they don't need to use them. Yeah.
Hey, Dave Workman, send me an email. I like to hear about your encounter there. I live in West Virginia too. I live up towards Morgantown. So.
How's the West Virginia's a pretty squashy state.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got any encounters yet. A friend of mine, Les, he goes out on the he goes and does his own investigations. Now he's got some, pretty good. Then we got Dr. Russ Jones down, and
okay, I know Russ.
Yeah, Russ, he does his thing here. There's a few people, I guess, that do it.
Yeah,
I'm just starting out, so test the waters.
Yeah, testing the waters, exactly. It's all we can do, really. I mean, you got to think about it. Every time we go out in the woods to do research, that's all we're doing is testing the waters even more. You tested them more and more each time you go out and gather evidence.
Right. Shoot. My brain went blank again.
No, it's all right. It happens.
But
it happens.
People are kind of closed-mouthed from what I take. They really don't like to tell their stories here in West Virginia because they're afraid.
Yes.
I mean, it's everybody. It's everywhere. But for some, we're mountain people. We don't talk much about stuff.
Yep.
Well,
and then that's.
It's probably that way up there too.
Yeah, and that's what people don't realize. That when they think of New York State, they think of the cities, but they forget that the Adirondack Park is 6.2 million acres of nothing but untouched wilderness. It's nothing but 6.2 million acres of mountains. So we're mountain people too, just from a different area of the country. And people stick within the communities, and they don't bring this stuff out of the communities unless you just got to give it a really delicate approach. Yep. Yeah. He's talking about the pictures I posted there on that show, Discover Sasquatch with Chris last week.
Melissa said, do you think they hibernate in the winter, or do you think they migrate?
That's something I pondered.
Yeah.
I pondered that and pondered it and pondered it. I think, I don't know if it's a hibernation, but I think they might go somewhere where they can access a cave and come in and out as they see fit. You know, I don't think they actually hibernate like a bear.
Yeah.
If that answers the question.
I know around here we have caves too, and then
yeah, you guys are loaded with them.
Old abandoned coal mines too would be another place to
yes,
back in
that would be
a good
ideal. Yeah,
it depends on they got low roof, that's only like they could crawl back there.
Sure,
miles, you know what I mean?
Sure,
no one would never think anything. I mean, no one goes in there.
No. Yeah, I forgot about West Virginia. Oh, okay. New York State as well.
Yeah. Let me see here. I think I was a good question.
Yep. So Al's got a report on the same way. Yep. Thanks, Al, for sharing that.
I mean, with their legs being as big,
strong as they are,
as they are, and strong, they got to be able to push off. Really good.
Absolutely.
They're
absolutely.
I mean, do you get the tree breaks and the X's and all that up there where you live?
I've got X's all over the property. All over the property. And I'm talking trees that were ripped out from the roots and X'd. Not just pushed down, but, actually ripped out of the ground and X'd. We've got those all over. Those, trees that are formed into T's. Well, they'll I don't know how they do it, but they'll snap halfway up the tree and break it so it forms a T shape. So, like that. Yeah, I don't know how they do that. Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but they do it. They pull it off somehow. But the X's, we've got all over the property and all over the area up here. Everywhere I do research up here, we've got the X's.
You get a lot of the arches too, where they take the big long saplings and like bend them down. And
we do.
Arch.
We do. We do. Not as not like the X. Not as. What's that?
I just wonder how they do that and keep it. You know what I mean?
Me too. Me too. And people. Yeah, people say, snow. Yes, snow can do that, but when you've got an arch and then you've got the end of it lodged under another log to brace it, keep it in place. Yeah, snow didn't do that. But yeah, we get a lot of that, a lot of that stuff too.
Al said they do use their arms, but they stay underwater when they use their arm.
Yeah, that.
So we got.
Yes, I have heard that as well. Yeah,
underwater. That's amazing. I would have never think of them being swimmers.
It is amazing
that they can go underwater.
Swimmers. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, these things. It seems like these things can do just about anything.
Right. I mean, it really does.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Interdimensional, whatever you want to call it. Where they can in and out.
Which is a possibility.
The tracks just stop. I know.
They just stop.
They can backtrack. I don't think you can backtrack that far without, and as big as they are, they'd be,
it wouldn't work out.
No.
I've ran into that problem several times. I was in a snow field, a field, acres of a field covered in snow, and I was following a line of tracks from the road, and there was 12 tracks, and all of a sudden when I got to the middle of this field, they just disappeared. Those tracks didn't disappear, but there was no more tracks. They just stopped. So where'd they go?
Exactly.
You know, where'd they go?
Yes, things.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, go ahead and tell them, Jeremiah.
Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. It is called Paranormal and Cryptid Crossroads Research. It's got all our shows on it for the past 5 years.
Yeah, guys, you get a chance, go check his show out, because I mean, he's got On the Trail, and then the Skookum.
Skookum Session Bigfoot podcast. When we that's On the Trail, we cover everything. You know, we interview other researchers that have had experiences, regular people that have had, and we interview them. You know, witnesses of every phenomena, from paranormal to UFO to Bigfoot, Dogman, reptilian, whatever they've seen. We'll interview them if we think they're credible. You know, the Skookum Session is strictly a Bigfoot podcast.
I love that.
You know,
you guys go into some things that blow my mind. I'm like, I never thought of that.
We do. We try to pick some interesting topics for people to keep people watching. You know.
This is the one I heard. I seen him talk about that the other night. 35.
Wow, inches. That's incredible.
And what do they say? Every 2 inches is a foot. I mean, I've heard that's kind of how you.
Yeah, there's a formula for the weight as well. Yeah, that's amazing, right there.
Imagine, that's 3 foot. I mean, that's an inch shy.
That's inch shy of 3 foot. Yeah, that's incredible.
I mean, that thing had to be what, 20 foot tall, 15? I mean,
15 feet. Yeah, I would say at least. Yeah, I know the big guy we've got here. He leaves 22-inch tracks, and that I thought was massive. But geez, 35. Wow.
I wonder how wide that thing is. I mean, what's your big guy? He probably like 8 or 9 inches across, or
about 11 inches. About 10 and a half. About 10 and a half inches. Yeah.
That's this way, right?
Yep.
That's huge.
It's massive.
Could you imagine a 35-inch? Holy crap.
Massive. And the indentation he leaves in the ground is incredible. So, you know, it makes you wonder. Like I said, I think people underestimate the weight on these things a lot. You know, he's got I would say well over 1,500 pounds at least, maybe pushing more towards a ton, you know, like to take out a full-grown bull moose, you know. I mean, you got to be big.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not something a regular creature is going to do. I mean,
I'm going to have to watch that one. That's.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you as soon as we get off here. I'm gonna send you those. I'm gonna send you a couple pics.
Al said the formula come out to be 23 feet.
23 feet.
Jeez.
Wow.
What?
That almost sounds like a giant. You know, the giants they talk about as opposed to a Sasquatch. That's just unbelievable.
Wow. I just could imagine. You run across something like that, that'd keep you out of the woods.
I'd probably have a stroke.
Right?
I'd probably have a stroke right then and there. Yeah, that'd be it for me.
Something that big. He's probably like 8 foot across or something, you know, or six
yeah.
across.
And that's what Stacy said about the big guy she saw. His shoulders were about 6 feet across. And that's at 10 and a half feet. So.
Wow. I want to get you both back one here. I know she researches too. Yeah.
She's a good, actually, very intelligent woman, very good researcher. I'd love to come back on, man. I'm sure she'd love to join me. Yeah, she'd love to join me too. That'd be great.
Al said what you said. They always underestimate the weight.
Yeah, without a doubt. I've always believed that. Always.
Right.
Always.
Well, we're over an hour here, Jeremiah, and I know you're probably ready to go too.
Yeah, I enjoyed myself, Chris. That was awesome, man. I had a great conversation with you, and I'd love to come back on. And like I said, I'd love to bring you on my program some night.
Yeah, yeah. Just give me a shout. Like I said, I'll get you and Stacey.
Absolutely.
I'll get a date together for you and her both to be on the show.
Sounds good, man. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Just shoot a couple at me, and we'll get her on. We still waiting for her to heal up. Get all her mental faculties back from that accident. So probably be a few weeks, but
Yeah,
she'd come
yeah.
on to me.
Yeah, wait until she's better. Yeah. I also
Yeah.
the mountain troll.
With that,
That 35-foot, 35-inch track. He said mountain troll.
Nitro, yeah, something. But I will send you those pictures. I'll send you that one of that black one peering at the cabin. I'll send you the picture of the female, what I think is carrying a baby, and I'll send you the episode.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate you being on, Jeremiah. Go ahead and tell
Yeah,
everybody again.
Yeah, you can find me if anyone wants to, check out my Facebook pages. I've got on the trail and on the trail paranormal and cryptid research. Or on the trail in search of. I get myself confused because I call my show the same name as I do my group. It's on the trail cryptid and paranormal research. That's one of the Facebook pages, and then I do the International Dogman New York page. And then my YouTube channel is Paranormal and Cryptid Crossroads Research.
Okay, awesome.
So
check out. I'm gonna do a quick plug here for one of your Skookum session guys. If you get a chance, you guys gotta go check out Carter's Burchard's new book right here. It's
absolutely
really awesome. It's an awesome book.
Yes, it is. Awesome piece of work. He does great work.
Yeah, he does. And he's always on the Skookum sessions with you too.
Always. Yeah, he's a great addition.
Justin Decker.
Yep. Gary Spikes.
Yeah, Gary Spikes Jr. and
Daryl Denton comes on. Yep.
Yeah, Daryl.
Got a pretty good.
I need to get Daryl on. Because he's had some interesting stuff with the whistles and stuff.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, I need one here.
That's a great guy right there, Daryl.
Right.
Great guy.
Oh, Scott was wanting to know what part of New York you're up towards Adirondacks, right?
Yeah, right in about as far north in the Adirondacks as you can get, Scott. About an hour south of Montreal.
Wow, you're close to Canada then. You're like really
I could literally on my land. I could walk across the Canadian border.
Whoa.
I'm that close. I'm within a couple miles. Yeah.
You're way up there then.
I'm way up there. Yeah, I'm at the very top of the boot of New York State.
No wonder it's cold up there. Snow and all.
Oh, yeah, it's cold.
Well, everybody, y'all have a good night. Good night, Scott, Al, David, Melissa. Who else? Did I miss anybody? David Workman. You're new here. Al Bundy, I seen he was here tonight. Sasquatch Seekers, he's up in BC, Canada.
Okay.
And he said they got the black and brown ones up there.
Black and brown ones, yeah.
Yeah. I heard the black ones are more aggressive or something. I thought I've heard that before.
One of my I had a buddy who had a very, very close encounter with a black one, and it got real nasty with him.
He's wanting to know north of Watertown.
Yep, north of Watertown, about 2.5 hours north of Watertown.
Wow, you're way up there.
Way up there, yeah.
Well, we worked for when I was an electrician before I got hurt. We worked for the dude that does Planet Fitnesses doing the electric.
Oh, okay.
And he lives up in the Adirondack somewhere.
Yeah, I forget where, but he does. He lives in the Adirondacks. Yep.
He's the nicest guy you ever want to meet, honest to God. He said they got a big camp up there and they all go hunting and stuff. Yep. You wouldn't think the thing that he hunted and stuff, but he's a big time hunter, man. He said there's a lot of game up there. You guys got stuff up there that we don't have down here, though. Like you guys got wolves and the moose.
Yeah.
The worst thing I think we would have would be coyotes and bears, you know. That's
you guys have a small population of elk, don't you?
Yeah.
Or is that in Virginia?
Yeah, they're down south all the way down the southern part of West Virginia, but I hope they
Okay.
make it, but there's a lot of poachers in West Virginia. You know what I mean? And I understand
Yeah.
some people can't afford food. I understand that, but
Yeah.
come on, let the elk get in here. Good. I want to kill an elk.
Let them get in. Yeah.
I love
They're
elk
trying
meat.
to they're trying to reintroduce them up here too.
Are they?
Yep, the eastern elk. Yeah, they're trying to reintroduce them. So we'll see how that goes.
You got the big wolves, like the big gray wolves and stuff, or like.
Yes. Yep. The DEC finally admitted that we had wolves back in the area, but if you talk to any locals that live where I do, they'll tell you they never went anywhere, and they did.
Right.
They never went anywhere. I don't know why the DEC denied it for so long, but they did. Might have been for tourism purposes. I don't know, worried about losing money. You know, it all boils down to money.
Yeah, you guys probably got good trout fishing up there too, don't you?
Awesome. We go down near Watertown to Pulaski. We do steelhead fishing, salmon fishing when they come up to spawn, and yeah, we got muskie, pike, great fishing up here.
Yeah. I love fishing. That's my favorite.
Yes.
Trout and catfish. I like trout because I think they fight better. You know.
They do. I think they do. Yeah.
They just introduced a new breed in the West Virginia. It's called a tiger trout. It's got like black down the side of it. Yeah.
Huh.
It's a
sounds like that's interesting because they. You ever heard of a tiger muskie?
Yeah, because I think they're down here. Yeah,
that's a hybrid between a muskie and a pike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've got the stripes like that, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. We usually got the brookies and the browns and the gold trout. For the gold.
Same here.
And,
yep.
No steelheads though. Steelhead's good eating too. Holy crap!
Awesome.
That's the best fish. It and salmon. It's you know what I mean.
In salmon. Yeah. Yeah.
If it's cooked right, holy crap! I can chow down on that.
You're right. Right. Absolutely.
Okay, Jeremiah. Well, I'll let you off here.
All right, Chris.
You guys all have a good night.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later. I'll send you that stuff right away.
Yeah, go ahead. Take your time. No biggie.
All right, bud.
You have a good night.
You too, Chris. Bye-bye.
Bye.